Legally, under the Constitution, to vote, you need to be male. Or the states have to take it on one at a time. This alone would be bad enough, except you remember that an enormous number of those women involved in the women's suffrage movement came out of the abolition of slavery movement. And they split. Lucy Stone and a number of other women felt that the plight of the freed slave was so bad that they had to put the right of the freed slave ahead of the rights of women. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony were outraged. They felt that women should get the right to vote, that it was not fair to put illiterate blacks ahead of women. Susan B. Anthony was not probably racist, but Elizabeth Cady Stanton probably was. So you get a split. And the women's suffrage movement develops two entirely separate organizations. The American Women's Suffrage Organization, headed by Lucy Stone, and the National Women's Suffrage Association, headed by Susan B. Anthony, with strong support from Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Now, all hope, sort of, is not lost, because in a couple of Western states, women gained the right to vote. Wrong way. Oops, sorry, just forgot something. Immediately after the National, that's the Elizabeth Cady Stanton bunch, tried running a woman for president, who was Victoria Claflin Woodall. Cutting to the quick, Victoria Claflin Woodall divorced her husband because he was an alcoholic and drug addict, remarried, and then moved her ex-husband into her home because he was ill and there was nobody to take care of him. This led her to be labeled a bigamist, and needless to say, this first campaign of a woman for president did not go particularly well. The next gambit on the part of the National, this is Victoria lobbying Congress. She's one of the first women to lobby Congress. The next gambit was an attempt on the part of Susan B. Anthony to vote. They said, okay, women are citizens, citizens have the right to vote, we'll go vote. Susan B. Anthony was arrested, jailed, somebody posted, sorry, bond. Somebody, there we are, posted bond for her. She was fined $100 and she never paid the fine. That didn't work. The Supreme Court roundly defeated that attempt on the part of women to vote. And so it would, as I say, look like all hope was lost, except Colorado, Wyoming, sorry. Get me Colorado, Wyoming. Wyoming, in 1869, had a constitutional committee to draw up a provisional constitution for Wyoming, and 5 members. And one of the members' wives had attended a lecture by Susan B. Anthony. And she thought it would be a nice idea if Wyoming gave women the right to vote. So she had the men in for tea, and they agreed that this might be a nice idea. Now, it's also true that they wanted to attract women to Wyoming, and they thought this might help. So they gave women the right to vote in the provisional constitution of Wyoming, and women will gain, when there's a permanent constitution, women will keep that right to vote. Utah is the next state, the next year, to give women the right to vote. And this is because if women Mormon could vote, the Mormons could outvote the non-Mormons. But if Mormon women could not vote, the non-Mormons could outvote the Mormons. Okay? So women were given the right to vote in the Utah State Constitution. The federal government took that right away in 1877 because if women could vote, the Mormons could outvote, right? Then when the Mormons got a permanent constitution, they put it back in. This is not exactly a resounding success for feminism. But you gotta go with what you can get, right? I'm going to now, between these two, Wyoming and Utah, there were a number of attempts in a number of states to get women the right to vote, and I'm just going to run through a couple of examples here. Colorado tried to get it in their provisional constitution in 1870, attempted again in 1875, attempted a referendum in 1877, 1881, tried in the legislature, 1893, the Constitution was amended and women got the right to vote in Colorado. Okay? And that's women voting for the first time in Colorado. Michigan, I just arbitrarily picked because it had, in 1849, which is very early, considered universal suffrage. Now what they're really talking about is black men, but they did throw women in there. 1857, they considered the issue of voting. 1867, they considered permitting white women to vote. 1873, tried to amend the Constitution. 1887, 1889, 1891, attempted to amend the Constitution. 1893, passed the legislature with a literacy clause for women. Men didn't have to be able to read, but women did. Failed by referendum. 1907, women got the right to vote on taxes and bond issues. 1911, 1912, 1913, attempts failed. 1918, a constitutional amendment was sent to voters and passed. You could do this for almost every single northern state, okay? The amount of effort, the amount of work, the trying over and over and over again is just astounding. The other state I want to use as an example is Illinois. Illinois was considered extremely important because it was the first state east of the Mississippi. If those people out in the Wild West, with gunfights and saloons and Indians, we're going to give women the right to vote, that was just sort of a weird Western phenomenon, right? None of the states east of the Mississippi had given women the vote. Illinois tried repeatedly, with no success.